He said, give first honors God. He said, save second helps you plan for the future. I think that's true. Saving helps you plan for the future, and in particular, recognizing the power of a thing called compounding interest. If you have not run some numbers on compounding interest, you should. I have heard this from the very beginning. My father gave me some very wise advice when I was a young man. He said, listen, son, you need to understand this. Those that understand the power of compounding interest earn it. And those who don't understand the power of compounding interest spend it or pay it, right? And so the course of this little bit of margin that we have that we work for in our month, our goal is to get from one side of the compounding interest equation, which would be debt, to the other side of compounding interest, which would be savings. If you need help getting out of debt, I just want to put my 2 cents in for a commercial for one of these classes, the Money and Me class or a Financial Peace or something like that, to help you move out of the debt side of compounding interest into the saving side of compounding interest. It helps you plan for your future. Now, what I want to do for just a few minutes is I want to show you how practical the Bible is. One of three things can happen during my little section. One is you're going to hear something and go, wow, that's new information. And if you do, that's great. That's awesome. Second thing that could happen is you hear something, you go, oh, I know that, but the Holy Spirit could use it in a way to say, yeah, but I want to draw your attention to something that you already know and maybe help you move forward in that. And the third thing, which is what happens to me when I study this in particular, is that to see that a book that is thousands of years old, written over the course of thousands of years in many, many different cultures, way far away from our culture, has such practical advice for something like investing. It blows me away to see what God says about something as practical as savings or investing, and it honestly builds my faith. If God can speak to that in my life, think of the things that He is speaking to. So, let me give you a couple things. He said we're going to be in the book of Proverbs, a couple of Proverbs when it comes to investing. One, first principle, don't try to get rich quick. Don't try, as you move into investing, don't try to get rich quick. Proverbs 13:11 says, he who gathers money little by little makes it grow. He who gathers little by little makes it grow. If someone comes and offers you an opportunity that you would say, man, that just seems too good to be true, it probably is, all right? Most of us are going to gather that money little by little. Doesn't mean that there shouldn't be some, if you understand, some syndicated real estate deal and your target is, hey, I'm going to go for 20% or 25%. Or if you're somebody that's an angel investor in venture capital and you say, I see a tech startup and I was involved in something like that and I saw amazing things from it. You might be thinking 3X and 10X and those kind of multiples. I'm not saying that those things don't happen. I'm saying, but if you move into that zone, man, you better know what you're talking about. Because as the return increases, or as the potential for return increases, so does the risk. So be very careful to do what the Bible says. He who gathers money little by little makes it grow. Second principle, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Ecclesiastes, Solomon, same author, writes this in Ecclesiastes 11:2. He says, give portions to 7, yes, to 8, for you do not know what disaster may come on the land. Do you know what that speaks to? The principle of diversification. And it blows me away that the Old Testament of the Bible is speaking to a financial principle called diversification. This idea that I want to spread out my investments so that I can take advantage of the market in many, many different areas. If you go to a mutual fund advisor, what they're going to tell you to do is, hey, you need to be in some stocks and you need to be in some bonds. You need to be in some large cap and some small cap. You need to be in international and commodities. You need to spread all of that out. A mutual fund. Different ways that you can diversify your investing. Number 3, don't invest in things you don't understand. Proverbs 24 says, by wisdom is a house built, and through understanding it is established. Through knowledge, its rooms are filled with rare and beautiful treasures. You want to increase your savings, you better make sure you're investing in things you understand. I don't understand puts and calls and options and things that people have tried to explain to me, but I don't understand it, so I don't get involved in options trading. Some of you are looking at the world of buying, blockchain and real estate in the metaverse. Some of you are looking like, I have no clue what he's talking about. Others of you go, I've heard of this stuff, NFTs and things like that. You know what? Here's the deal. There might be some opportunity in those things, but I don't know, and that's the point. Like, I have no clue, and therefore, since I don't understand it, I'm not going to get involved with it. And then count the cost. Luke 14:28 says this, "For which of you, intending to build a tower, does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to finish it, lest after he's laid the foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, 'This man began to build and was not able to finish.'" I'm looking at my future, and now I'm thinking to myself, what is the cost of buying this item? You say, well, that's simple. Just look at the price tag. No, it's not so simple. If I think about a car, let's take a $20,000 car. You say, well, that's the cost. Well, maybe not. Because for some people, you'd say, well, how much does that cost? They're going to tell you, well, it's $400 a month. That's the cost. Well, that's one way to look at it. But if you're only doing $400 a month at 3.5% or whatever your interest rate is, you're going to end up paying not $20,000 for that car. If you go through the 60 months or whatever it's going to be, it's going to end up costing you $23,000, $24,000 for that car. And as I'm looking at my financial picture for the long term, I'm counting the cost, not just the monthly payment, but I'm looking at the total cost. I'm looking at the total cost of that car. Not to mention, come on, let's get sophisticated about this, not to mention the opportunity cost of buying that item. You're going to think I'm crazy, but this is the way I'm thinking about my future. And I would encourage you maybe to do the same. I'm not looking at that car and thinking, okay, that's $20,000. That's what it's going to cost me. I start to think about, what if I had that kind of money in an investment? I'm 48 years old. If that goes on to 70, at 10%, I could probably see that money double 3 times. So now that $20,000 in my mind, you're going to think I'm crazy, but I start looking at a $20,000 car, and I think that car is $160,000 to me. And it really shapes how I look at what I want to spend. You say, man, you sound really cheap. No, I'm just trying to be smart. Count the cost. And then finally, look at this, invest justly. As you're doing your investments, Psalm 112, 5 said, "It is well with the man who deals generously and lends, who conducts his affairs with justice." Proverbs 16:8, "Better is a little with righteousness than vast revenues without justice." Proverbs 22:16, "He who oppresses the poor to make more for himself, or who gives to the rich, will only come to poverty." What does that speak to? I think it speaks to, I don't think God would be too excited about us investing in sweatshops or strip clubs, or things where we might walk away with a great return, but does not necessarily reflect the goodness, the righteousness, and the justice of God. In fact, we may begin to think about how do we invest our money in a way to see it not only get us a return, but to see a kingdom return in our investments. Here at Willow, we've taken some of our reserves and we've said we want to put it not just in a bank earning X amount of interest, but we've actually taken some of our money, put it in a minority-owned bank, get the same interest, but now we're capitalizing that bank who is now capitalizing that local community. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. There are ways that you can invest that will have ripple effects or returns more than just money. Kingdom returns as well. And that gets to the last thing I would say to you is know your why. If you get involved in finances and investing, I would encourage you, why are you doing it? There's a great Bible verse, Proverbs 13:22, that says, "A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children." Not just my kids, but my grandkids. "But a sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous." So your why, a very decent why, a good why, a biblical why, is to say, well, I want to pass on something to my kids. Another good why, I think, would be to say, you know what, I want some freedom. I want some security in my future. And ultimately, my security and my freedom is in God, but God is the one who's given me some of these principles. And so I'm going to think to myself, how do I move toward that kind of freedom and security in the future? Following God's principles. And then maybe to even say, you know what, not only do I have, part of my why is not just to have freedom or security or pass on something to my kids, but you know what? What if part of my why is I want to bless people? I'd love to be in the position over the course of my life to have built up something that I can bless people. And maybe my money would live on beyond me. That I would say, hey, you know what? I can take some of what I have left over and I can give it away and to see kingdom impact. I don't know what your why might be, but I encourage you to try and find a why. Give first. It honors God. Save second. There's a way to plan for your future. And then live on the rest.